So now I'm getting ready to use my Jet 1632 Plus drum sander to sand some boards that are 16 inches wide. So even though it says it'll do 16 in the 16 inches wide here, I am more than likely going to have to go wider than that because I'm not going to be able to get exactly 16 inches out of that. So, but it's made to do that. But one of the things that I had to do was make an adjustment. You see this little knob down here? I made a mark so I knew kind of where I started, but I made an adjustment where basically these two bolts here, this one and this one, and then on the other side for the motor, for the what do you call it, the mount for the actual drum spindle and the motor and everything else, there's two bolts here too, this one and this one, that have to be loosened up in order to turn this. Once you loosen those bolts up, then you can turn this, and what it'll do is it'll either raise it up or lower it down some on the very end. And so I made an adjustment already. I started with, I believe I started over here. I turned it about 90, or what would that be, 180 degrees, and it's probably a little bit too much. I raised it up because I was getting some burn on the outside board. It was actually burning the belt and putting kind of a groove in the board. Once I changed that and loosened it up so it went higher on that end, then I was much better off and I didn't have that issue. But I think I went a little too far. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on loosening those bolts up again and making that come back about 90 degrees, and we'll see how that works. And I'm just trying to dial that in so I know. When you're only doing boards that are less than the width of the drum, you need to put this back to where it originally was, which is what I'll do when I get done. So we're going to start by loosening up these, and I've got a 14 millimeter wrench is what fits the best. Both that and the 1/2 inch both seem to be a little bit loose on the bolt, but it's enough for what I need to do. It works. So I'm not quite sure. The 13 didn't fit, the 14 does fit. There's not really a metric that goes in between, and the 1/2 inch was actually a little too loose, but I believe a little too tight. And the next one up is 9/16, which is not going to fit. I'll get these two bolts on this side. Help if I turn the wrench the right way. It's really not that bad. The first time it seemed to take longer because I was trying to make sure that I didn't mess anything up. And then over here, now I'm just going to spin this wheel back, and that'll lower the outside edge down a little bit. We'll see how we end up. Like I said, I may end up having to go in between distance-wise, but we'll start out with that and see how we end up. Okay, so let's fire that up. So now I've got all my boards glued up, and I'm going to use the drum sander. I've already done 3 of them. I've got the 4th one that I'm going to be doing in order to be able to do the final sanding prior to putting a finish on. Okay, I've got this one all done, and on this side, I've got to do the other side yet. But you can see this particular shelf, I had some gaps in the glue. I think my glue's getting old. I got to get some new glue, but hopefully that'll all fill in with the Osmo that I'm going to be putting on here as a finish. I think it'll work its way in there, so I think I'll be okay. So I'll work on the other side now. So I've got one side of this board done. We're going to flip it around and do the other side and make sure we got a nice smooth board on both sides. So here we go. So I wanted to explain how the drum sander works. As I may have mentioned before, it's kind of a cantilever, right? So the drum goes across like this, and then you can adjust it so it cantilevers over a little bit, or you adjust the angle up or down. And so when you have a piece that's wider than 16 inches, and this is 16 inches, so for all practical purposes, I'm considering it wider. You may run it, you run it through like this. You have the adjustment setting such that it's up just a hair above completely level, and that way you're not driving this end into the wood and making a mark in the wood. So this board we've already pretty much done, but what I'll do is when I change the height over here on the drum sander and drop it down just a hair, then I'll start out in the middle here, and then I'll make a pass over here and a pass over here. Then I'll flip the board completely around 180 degrees and do the same thing in order to catch this other one, because you're literally taking a little bit more off on this side than you are over on this side. It's just out of the nature of it. And so that seems to work pretty good, and that's kind of the method I have. Okay, so today I started installing the cleats for my closet, and I have a laser level, so you could do this with a regular level, but since I got it, it's an easy way to do it. And I've already got 2 sets of shelves. What I did was I put the bottom shelf 24 inches off the floor, and then I went every 18 inches. I figured that's a good height. If I want to, I could always add an extra shelf in between. But basically what I did was I pre-drilled the holes, these holes here, so that I didn't tear out the maple. These were just maple scraps that I was using. And on this side, I still have to be conscious of being able to get these 2 boards out. They're put in with a screw here and a screw up above, and the same screw here and a screw down below. And basically I've just wedged the tongue from the previous or the next board into the groove of the following board for these 2 boards, so they can come out if I need to access the back of the shower. And I wasn't originally going to have the cleat come out this far, but my shelf's 16 inches, and I figured it's just as easy to remove this screw later on if I need to. So my next cleat that's going up, I've got these holes pre-drilled, so these will pretty much push right through. And I also drilled one hole on each end. There's one down there as well. And then for my little cleats, I'm putting one hole in the center drilled down. That is in order to fasten down the shelving. There's a little bit of a warp to the shelving. It's just natural with the way the board's dried. Not a lot, but I figure I'll just put 2 screws in the back to hold the back corners down, and 2 in the front in order to hold the sides down. Okay. I'm going to move this in a little bit. Better not. So get the middle screw in first. Oops, moved a little bit. I'll do this one because it's actually closer to me. Okay. Oops. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I just got to get the side cleats. Okay. Okay, so I put in the first shelf. The other I made 3 of them. I'm going to make 4 total. And you can see it fits in here. The only issue is that my room isn't perfectly square. For the next shelf, I've got to make sure I leave a little bit more on. I actually cut this at a taper, but I cut it a little too aggressively. I thought I had it right, but a little bit off. I'm not so concerned about the sides here. It is a closet, and these shelves should work out pretty well. I'm pretty much putting in towels and extra items like, tissue and whatnot. So it doesn't got to be super strength. So, but I'm going to measure each one of the additional shelves separately. The distances here, just so I make sure I've got them as close as possible. So I've got my 3 shelves planed up, sanded. I'm not going to put a really fine sand on here because I'm probably going to be using Osmo in order to bring out the texture and whatnot of the wood and have it feel more like wood rather than polyurethane. But one of the things I'm going to be doing is I figured out where the front edge is on each of these shelves, and I'm going to put a 1/4-inch round on the front, and I've already fitted them into the area where they're going to be going, and so they should be ready to go and ready to put the Osmo on after I'm done doing this. So stay tuned. So here we go. Let's see how this route works out. Okay, so my board is kind of heavy and it keeps lifting up at the end, so I'm going to move this fence to the other side. And I'm sorry, I forget what they call these things, the featherboard. And hopefully that'll help to eliminate that popping up at the end, so we'll see. Okay, let's give that a shot. There we go. So you can see I got a nice beveled edge. Hopefully you can see it. Nice beveled edge on there. I'll just do a finish sanding to get the little black off that got on there from the router bit. But yeah, that should work out good. That one worked out well on the first pass, so. Okay, so now I'm going to get ready to prepare the boards to be finished, and prior to that I'm going to get all the little bits of sand off. I'm using this tack cloth. It's fairly inexpensive to get at Home Depot, and all I'm going to do is rub it across, and it's a real, just like it sounds, it's a really tacky cloth that's going to pick up any sawdust left over from the sanding process. It usually does a pretty good job. I'm going to flip it over and get the other side. Okay, so that looks good. Okay guys, so I'm going to be applying to my shelving something called Osmo Poly X oil. And there's a bunch of different videos out there on how to apply it. The way that I learned for my table, my coffee table that I did, and it came out beautiful. Basically, I'm going to spread it out with a spreader on the top of the shelf, and then you don't need a whole lot. You just it goes really far. It's very expensive. I forgot how much it costs for just a quart of this. You can't buy it like in a gallon. Like this is like one of the bigger containers you can get. And then once I get it on, one of the ways of doing it is to work it in with a they call it, it's a slight abrasive, but it's a Scotch-Brite scuffing system. So it's not real aggressive as far as abrasiveness, but it's enough that with the oil it helps to work it in. Now the way I did it and the way that I learned it, they have ways that people do it with buffers. I have a DeWalt orbital sander, and I found that this works well. If you take off the pad that normally is there, it just peels off for sandpaper, then you can basically hook this thing right onto the bottom of that and it'll stick right on. So that's what I'm going to use in order to have it go into the wood, help push it into the wood. And then after 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to take another one, a clean one, and basically do the work the excess out. And that's all you really have to do with this. You can do 1 or 2 coats. I'm not sure, since this is shelving. The table I did 2 coats, and that's wearing pretty well. But they tell you to do both sides right away, because you don't want the boards warping. Now my shelving has already got a little slight warp. I'm not too worried. I'm going to pull that down with screws once I get it into the closet. But I'm still going to do both sides. What I have this up on is these Rockler cookies, and the cookies you can get with this top piece, which just has one little point. So I have 4 of them underneath here to support the board as I work on it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, flip it over, do the bottom first, flip it over, do my top coat for the top side of the board, and then I'll set that off to the side and I'll do the second one. I get the second shelf done as well. I am going to wear gloves because this is pretty nasty. Okay, so I'm going to get the top off. The lid goes down pretty tight from the last time. Okay, set that over there. One thing I got to get is some paper towels, just in case. Get them ready. Okay, now they say just to stir it up. You don't have to do a whole lot other than to make sure it's well mixed. I know I should have my mask on here. I'll probably go out and get it after. I'm going to use one of these paint brushes I got from Harbor Freight. I use them all the time. They're like 99 cents on sale or $1.29. They're just, I consider them disposable. And when I get all done, I'll put it in a plastic baggie. Usually you can use the brush several times if you don't got a huge long wait between uses. And that way I kind of save on that as well. So. And I'm just, once again, trying to use it sparingly because this stuff goes a long way. Okay. And I'm more or less using the brush. You know, I was going to use a spreader. The purpose of the brush is to get it out of the can. You can see I really haven't put in a whole lot, but the spreader does a nice job evening it out. It won't be this dark when I'm done either. It'll lighten up a little bit. Probably use the brush on the sides here. Don't forget, we're going to wipe all the excess off after. Okay, now we're going to put the cover on this so we don't let a lot of it evaporate here while we're buffing. Let's get it on partially. Okay, I'm going to sacrifice these pair of gloves and I'll get another set afterwards. Go find an extension cord. the second shelf. I'm going to wait for the other one to dry a little bit before I buff the excess out. You're just kind of working it in, working it around, and kind of going over and making it nice and making sure you're getting every little bit, but you're going to work your way from the inside almost out to get to the edge. Always fun when you get little something on in your finish. Okay. By the way, I'm wiping my spatula off in between with a paper towel. Okay, so now my first shelve that I did should be ready to start buffing off. So I'm going to do that. I got a clean pad I put on the bottom, and we'll get started. Okay, I gotta move this stuff a little bit so I can get this last little edge over here. You can see I didn't exactly prep my work area prior to getting going. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna move the camera and get you a good view of it so you can kind of get an idea what this looks like. I've got it in wide mode, so it's not exactly to size on the camera, but it comes out really nice. And then I'll come over here. This is the one that's still wet. You can see it's more of a sheen to it until I end up buffing that one out. I'm going to give it another 10 minutes or so. I'm going to put one more on here because this one was carrying a little bit of the oil from the previous one. Okay. Okay, so we're going to actually let that dry. You can see what this one looks like. Comes out really nice. There was too much oil on it previous to me putting the last pad on, so I ended up putting one more pad on. The one over here has been drying for about 15-20 minutes now, and it looks beautiful. So I'll let this one dry probably another half an hour, and then I'll flip it over and do the other sides. Okay, so I'm going to show you the results of the shelves that I put into the closet. I've got 4 shelves, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think I got 20 inches from the floor is the first shelf. But they came out really nice. I actually lose a little bit of light because of where my light is up there, but that's okay. It's only a closet. But the Osmo that I put on here comes out really nice. It's got a nice feel to it, nice sheen to it, not too bright. And the only thing I really got left to do here, but I'm not really in a hurry to do, is I'll probably put some cord around in the corners here, especially up above. I've got to get some something bigger than quarter round for up there, probably 2 inches of trim, and then we'll pretty much be done with the closet. And down the bottom, I've got to put the kicker board all the way around. So that's the last thing that's got to go into the closet. So I hope you enjoyed following along with this project, and I know it was a little long, but sometimes some of the simplest projects seem to take the longest, but really satisfying when you're done. So we went from maple tree out there that had to be taken down to put the garage up a couple of years ago to a finished product of a shelving for the closet. And like I said, I think it came out really nice. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.